What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Gameball. As you can tell, we have a reoccurring guest, Naz Bohannon. Now he's on the Jags on the 90-man roster, trying to get to a final roster spot. He finished his 5-year college basketball career up, finishing up at Clemson. Naz, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. So, people want to know about obviously the Jaguars and football and that whole situation. We spoke on the phone about it previously, but what led you to the decision to say, basketball may not be where I have a future and as far as the NBA?
I've told this story a bunch of times now, but kind of going into the season, well, to start it all in the beginning, I played football and basketball coming up. So I had a love for both. And then before college, I had to make a choice of whether I was going to play football or basketball in college, which was a decision that, kind of weighed heavy on the 18-year-old. Didn't know what to do. But throughout all my years of college basketball, I always talked and joked around about, I should be playing on Saturdays. Out there again. Didn't really think that I could play on Sundays until before I actually came to Clemson. I had got reached out to by an NFL team about potentially trying for a practice squad. So I weighed that decision out, and then I eventually ended up going to Clemson. But it was about a month or so left in the season, and I was talking to an agent that I was real tight with, real close, probably was going to sign to him for basketball. And he approached me and was like, hey, if an NFL opportunity presented itself, would you be open to it? And I was like, hey, just explain it to me and what would go on and what's the details about it. And after he explained it to me and just, exactly how it would go down and possibly me getting the opportunity to go to a mini camp with the draft passed me by, which is what took place. And me knowing something as early as I would, considering it being May, it never closed the door for me to have a deal to potentially go play overseas come August had it not worked. And when he presented it to me in that way, I talked to my dad on the phone and was like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Like, the opportunity wouldn't keep presenting itself if it wasn't something there for it. So I just went and to go for it. Life kind of threw an audible and I chased it.
Definitely. And so, you mentioned that you thought you obviously had a chance maybe playing on Saturdays, playing football and college football, but you could never imagine playing NFL because you just didn't think there would be an opportunity for it. But obviously now there is. And I guess my question is, did you ever think, especially now when that opportunity became a thing, did you ever think like, man, I wish I played college football? Maybe I could have had this path a little bit easier.
Yes and no, if that makes sense. So the yes part of it is like, now that I'm actually playing in the NFL, I get everybody from my past life that always says, I told you, if you would have played football in college, you would have gotten drafted. You could have went in a higher round. Nobody knows what the story could have been. Mm-hmm. But the no part of me is like, I'm a person who kind of just like, everybody has their own path in life. And you make a decision and you run with it and you make the best out of what was due. At that time, I was wholeheartedly 2 feet in and playing basketball and loved everything about the game. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. So there's the no side of it.
So you ended up choosing the Jags and going there. Before I get into that, were there other teams that reached out to you, or did you already have kind of a connection with Jacksonville?
There was a couple other teams that my agent talked to. The Browns was one of the teams, Jacksonville, obviously. And he tried Carolina a little bit. There's a couple things because it was kind of late how my process went. We got out the ACC tournament. It'd be early March, and Clemson's pro day was a week or two after. Which, at one hand, we talked about maybe participating in it, but I hadn't done any training or anything at all. So it just kind of jump started, and the draft was in 30 days. So, but yeah, it was a couple other teams.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Browns have been cool since you're obviously from Lorain, Cleveland, Ohio. That would have been pretty cool, but Jacksonville is the choice, and you decided to go there. And I know that you mentioned previously that Marcus Pollard, he made the same switch. I guess in a way he works out at Jacksonville.
He's on our player development staff.
Okay. All right. That makes sense then. But was that like a was that like a part of the reason why you decided to go to Jacksonville, knowing that someone who kind of made the same transition was going to help you?
Yeah, definitely. So he played a big part in me making the decision to actually play football. Got on the phone with him, felt comfortable in learning from him just because he's obviously done it before, but also to know that he'll be in the organization and I can go to him every day and say, hey, how did you go about this? Or how did you attack this? Can you help me with these type of things? We also have the same agent. And, so that played a big role too. And not only him, but Chris Manhertz is a tight end on the Jags, and he made the transition too. So it kind of couldn't have been a better situation for me to go into a team or organization with guys, not one, but two guys who've done the exact same thing that I'm attempting to do.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to bring him up too, but you got there before I could. But with that being said, I know we spoke about this previously entering, the decision of going to try and play football in the NFL, but being able to see guys that have made the transition before go from basketball to football, does that give you confidence knowing that like, hey, this isn't out of the ordinary, like I can do this too?
Yeah, it definitely gives you confidence. It gives me sort of motivation too, You see the route in front of you, and obviously everybody knows of the greats. He knows of the Antonio Gates, the Tony Gonzalez's, those type of guys, Mo Ellie Cox, like we spoke about before. So you see the end goal, but then you also see, hey, there's a bunch of guys in between who they've had long careers and been successful. They might not have got the spotlight, but they've done this and they've done it at a high level and they've been able to stick around. So I try to learn from, watching the films of the people that are obviously the greats and learning from the guys that are right there in front of me, just to figure out how to do it in my own way and striving to be the best at it for myself.
So with football, a lot of hits, very physical. You have to, be strong, but have you been having to put on weight? Because I know when we spoke, you were 232. I don't know if you've increased or decreased or added muscle. So like,
yeah, I'm up to 250 now.
Dang. So, all right. Okay. 250. That's a big jump.
Yeah, I definitely had to put on weight, So I kept gradually, like up until me even going to the mini camp, I was on a weight meal plan to gain, and I had been lifting and doing things of that sort. And then obviously being down here for 5 or 6 weeks kind of jump started that. But I'm finally at a weight that's, comfortable, and I got to still remain quick. So not to do too much, but obviously for me, attacking the weights heavy is a key point for my development, just because I need to get it stronger. Like the frame is fine, and I was strong for one sport, but in this sport, there's going to be time I'm going to come off the end and I got to block a 300-pound lineman.
Yeah. Well, that's always something to look forward to every day you wake up. But yeah, 250, that's a lot of weight that you've added since. So you kind of found a love for the weight room again?
Yeah, I did. And the funny part is, like, when I played in high school, I actually was like the complete opposite. I was like, hey, coach, I don't want to come to the weight room. Like, I didn't want to do it. Like, I knew when I had to, but then I kind of just like went out there and played, and it worked, which was a blessing and a curse, because I should have done it then and it would have helped me more now.
Well, hey, now you found the way. So you got to be you're eating a bunch of food, I'm assuming, right? You just have to keep downing it all.
Yeah. Well, the key part is eating the right types of food. So like eating clean, but still eating to be able to gain, and it's eating more times throughout the day. Like, so working on the schedule and staying disciplined of waking up at this time and making sure I get a meal before these hours. Because if I don't wake up at a certain time, I won't get all my meals in. And I will hate to gorge myself at one or two of the meals to try to make up for it.
Yeah. So one last thing about your weight. I know it's kind of a weird thing to bring up, but I know you said you were basketball strong and you have to get football strong, but has it been different just feeling that you've had more weight added, like that because it's, I know you're able to and you're capable of having a bigger frame, but you were in basketball shape for the past, 5 years.
It's definitely a difference. It's weird. I don't want to say weird, but I spoke to my dad the other day about it, and I was just like, this year at Clemson, I played the lightest I've played since probably my freshman year. I played at 225 this year at Clemson. When I was at Youngstown State, my last couple of years, I played at around 235, 232 to 235. But I usually walk around that, like when the season's over, I usually walk around 240. And so it wasn't abnormal for me to get back to that weight. But 250 is obviously the heaviest I've been, but it doesn't feel any different. Like it doesn't feel like it's weighing me down, which I guess is a good thing.
That is good. That is good. So now looking to mini camp and then obviously OTAs, it was kind of, I guess, like you mentioned, it was a split up process because you got done with the basketball season, and then next thing you know, you're getting the possibility of playing with the Jags because the draft just concluded. It was just a really fast process, but being able to now having to go to mini camp, did you feel you're prepared for? Like, what was that whole entire situation like?
Yeah, so when I got the call, they actually called me like right after the draft concluded that same night. So for me, it was kind of, like everybody anticipates their name being called in a big draft. I just was excited for an opportunity. So that same feeling of, hey, okay, they've got me to the door. And I've always been told in my life, like my peers, my parents, my coaches, the best position you can be in is be able to bet on yourself. Like I couldn't be able to be mad at anybody else if I didn't go to the opportunity and perform to my best extent. So, going into it, I definitely felt as prepared as I could be because when I decided to say I was going to play football, I knew I had to be 2 feet in on the decision. So as much as like it hurt to just say, you know what, hey, I'm done with basketball so abruptly, I had to do it. And I stopped and I started to train multiple times a day, 5 or so days out the week, maybe take one day off. So when I went out there for the rookie mini camp, when I got there, I was just like, hey, if I'm going to give my best and whatever happens, happens at this point, as long as I know I did everything in my power to try to prove myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so in high school, when you played, you were a defensive end. Now you're playing tight end. So there weren't, I guess, in a way that the skills can translate, but it's also different. You have to learn how to run routes. Now you have to learn how to block instead of blowing up someone. So how has that been, just being able to now having to learn basically the whole football thing new?
It definitely was a challenge early on. Obviously, it's early. It gets better. The more I've been down there, the more I get into it and learn. But I love challenges, so I'm actually liking the process. That like it's difficult. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it. But the first couple of days I got down there, actually about the first week or so, I was like, yo, what the hell did I get myself into? I didn't know it was this much into the run game, or like I had a new appreciation for just offensive linemen and football in itself, the way that you break stuff down in the game within the game of football, which I never fully got an understanding of. I understood it in basketball because I played it for so long, and then I played it at the college level, and I got to learn that. But skipping that level of not playing since high school, and then, hey, now you're at the top of the top, it was definitely a huge learning curve that, I'm still growing. I'm still learning every day. It's so much to learn and dissect.
It is a huge, I guess, shock to you, learning everything right away. OTAs, minicamp, you're learning everything. They're not limiting you to one thing. But do you think you'll be used more for blocking, for receiving, all of it?
Personally, I've been doing both.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously, there's we have tight ends who are more receiving more than they are blockers, but with the frame I have, I think I'll be able to be fortunate enough to still be quick enough too. Like I work on routes a lot with receivers just so I can keep my feet and keep everything. Because I'm like, if I run routes like receivers do, but I'm able to get in here and stick my nose in there, the ceiling is endless. So personally, I intend to be a guy who can do both and potentially grow into a 3-down guy if my career foresees for that. But yeah, doing arts throughout OTAs and, the mini camps and things, they haven't been limiting me. I've been doing both, moving me around just to see what I'm capable of. And then, learning one thing at a time. So then that way it's easier and my mind isn't frazzled.
So a big thing is, running the route, running it crisp, running it perfect. Has that been harder for you? Has it been easy? How has it learned? How has it been trying to master the art of running a route?
Again, it's been a challenge. Some routes are obviously easier because I can translate some of the footwork that I've used before in my head, and actually, some of the releases and things are like, I might use a basketball move in my head just to get my body movement used to it, and it kind of works to my advantage sometimes. There's other times where I can't do that and I get outside of my body and things. So I put a lot of attention to detail into it, just understanding, whether now I'm walking throughout the house and I'm stemming towards the couch and then planting and trying to get vertical and then plant the other way, just because I'm in a position where I have to try to steal reps because I missed so many. So just trying to get my body used to the football movement. So it's been a challenge, but I accepted it and, just hoping to learn and continue to keep growing it so I can show more and more.
And so with rookie minicamp and OTAs, you obviously met a lot of players, everyone in your position group, and then minicamp, all the rookies. Was that like a good experience for you, just being able to meet all the guys?
Yeah, definitely. I'm huge on, networking and relationships. So for me, I understand that there's people who come into the NFL and are done in a day, a year, maybe 10 years. But the relationships and the things you do throughout it or while you're there are endless, and you never know what it can become. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Are there, I guess, with your position group, I know you mentioned Chris Manhertz because he made the same transition as you, but other players that are kind of taking you under their wing or saying, hey, do this better or do that better?
Yeah, obviously our position group, we're all kind of close knit, We got Dan Arnold, Evan Ingram's in there, the rookies, Prince and Gunther. They're like, we're close as we can be. We go over everything itself. Luke Farrell is real good with that too. Outside of them, I'm real close with Marvin Hall, who's a receiver. Mm-hmm. And, he was at the camp with us, mini camp throughout OTAs, but he just never had to, which I can appreciate, but he's been in the league for a little bit, been around a couple of teams, and he doesn't mind giving me insight on, hey, here's how to run this route, or here's how to do this. All right, here's how we work your feet. Let's get some extra conditioning. Here's what I see. Let's watch this film together. Here's how I learned playbooks at 3-4 different places. And I appreciate that a lot.
You mentioned the playbook situation. How has that been?
It's gotten a lot better. I'm a person who, like, if you give me the foundation, like, I can pick up on things quick. Mm-hmm. When I first got there, we came at rookie mini camp, but the vets were already on maybe install 6 or 7. So we went from the couple little half of installs they gave us for the weekend, get signed on Sunday, wake up Monday at 7 a.m. Now you're in practice with everybody. And it was just like a whirlwind. I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on? But it's obviously gotten a lot better because during this time off, I've got to go back and really look at the basis of everything. Hey, here's all the formations. Here's our concepts. Here's the cadences. Here's what this means. And once I understand that, for me, it's easier now to know, okay, I got down the formations and the concepts, whatever they call together, like, I know what to do. And, I kind of test myself on it. It's been a tip I got from Chris Manhertz, which was good too, was, get this recorder app reporter app, I meant to say, and speak into it and go out and call out all the plays in a row. Call it like a script. Just take 15, 20 minutes, call it out, to play it on the speaker throughout the house. When I hear it, walk around the house and get set up in the spot that I need to be in. So that way it becomes muscle memory, which was something I took away from him. It was like, hey, here's a guy who's been in the league for some time, and, obviously it works. Something I do personally is I get a whiteboard and a dry erase marker, and I'll have one of my friends, hey, call out this play. I'll write the play at the top, draw it or attempt to draw it, and have them compare what I drew to the actual play in the playbook. and that way I can see it for myself.
So when you're doing all that and looking at the playbook, are you, this might be a bad question, but are you are you concerned with just what you're supposed to be doing or what the entire offensive unit is doing and where they're setting up to?
Yeah, no, that's not a bad question at all, because there's guys that, that I've asked. I have a couple of friends who have actually been in the league for a little bit, and they say there's guys who, hey, just tell me what I'm doing on this player as long as I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the way they study. Me, I try to study the entire offense, because you have to be versatile to be able to stay in this league. You never know what happens. Hey, you might be a blocking tight end, but what happens if these guys get hurt, God forbid? Now you're an F instead of a Y. Or the concept doesn't change, but the formation changes. So now you're the single receiver on this one. So you have to know what the single receiver has on that concept. You can't just know, like, hey, when they call this, I'm over here in the 2x2 set, I have this route. You don't have that route anymore. And for me, I want to learn, again, the game within the game, because I think that's what makes people successful. Like, when I was playing basketball, me having a knowledge of the game, I understood how to win versus certain defenders, or how to win in certain situations. Like, this is how I win this rep, or this is how I'll beat him on this play. And I think that's what makes the greats successful at things that they do. Like, hey, yeah, there's one thing to say, okay, I have this route, I have this play, but I'm going to run it in my own way. And I'm still going to be where I need to be when the ball is strong. And they can't predict that. You can't put that on film. You can't take up for somebody's mind.
For sure. And OTAs are kind of like a walkthrough. They're not necessarily, full speed because you can't wear pads. It's not just moving really fast. But in a way, has OTAs kind of been, I guess, a blessing for you, being able to see like how it's all done without it being jumping right in, instead of 2 feet in, 4 feet in, full speed, everything?
Not yet. OTAs were definitely beneficial for me. I would say the most, just because I got a true feel for, I won't say a complete true feel, but a true feel for, this is the way that practices are ran. This is the way they're represented. This is how a day should be. But getting to do it at a slower pace. Maybe we're going at 75 because, yeah, we know we can't tackle, but we still, and that's one thing I did learn too, is learning how to practice. Like, you're used to going hard all the time, in college, it may be about, oh, I'm about to beat this guy out. I'm going to have this position to do this, we have to do this. These guys have long careers because they understand how to go and when to go. Like, Sunday, I have to be able to perform to my furthest extent. Throughout the week, that doesn't mean I don't go hard, but it looks like they're going 100 and they're not going 100. And that was something that I didn't understand, the first couple of weeks in there. Like, yo, I'm used to going hard every single time. Boom, exert yourself. You're like, hey, there's a way to do it so you maintain your body and you do everything else. But on the football aspect, definitely they have been beneficial, just because, like, I can slowly watch and take mental reps of everything that's going on versus everything being, which will happen when I get back down there.
Yeah, I was about to mention that training camp's, fast approaching. It's a couple of weeks away from now.
Mm-hmm.
Full speed, everything's gonna be happening. Then preseason after that. But do you think you're prepared for just the idea of what it's about to be like?
I think, yeah, for me personally, yeah, I always think that, I take it day by day. There's always something new that I can learn, especially, and just something that I'll learn going through. I'm excited to go through my first ever training camp, like first NFL training camp, just to experience it, see what it's like and do things. But we also understanding just how real ours is. Like, we play in the Hall of Fame game. So we're going, like, we get training camp starts July 24th. August 4th is game day. So you got to be that much even more ready or prepared for what's coming.
A person I want to talk about is your tight end coach, Coach Ngolo. Has he helped you like throughout it and coaching you up for it?
Yeah, he's great for me because he's a person who pays attention to detail. He makes us focus on the details and every little thing that matters. They say football is a game of inches, and like every single thing you do matters. So like I like that he demands more of me. He doesn't just let me get by because like, hey, it's supposed to look this way. I know you're raw. It's just like he has his days where he's like, no, do it this way. Like you're capable of it. Let your athleticism go. Do this. Don't be unsure. Just go hard. And still on the other side of it, I know that he cares about trying to develop me and help me. He could have just been like, hey, here's a basketball guy going through the motions. Like, yeah, forget it. He'll be in, he'll be out, whatever else it is. But he's invested into my development and who I'll be as a player. And he also helps with just giving me tips on how to learn the playbook.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, that's what you want out of a coach, especially at your position, not overlooking everyone. So I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot just because it's Clemson and, you play basketball there and obviously the quarterback and the running back play football there. But have you made that connection? I mean, I know you're not in the same position group, so it's not like you're spending every second with them as you can. But was that ever even brought up?
I definitely once T-Law and Trav figured out I went to Clemson, they definitely approached me and we talked and, joked about it briefly and everything else. But yeah, obviously the more I'm around and the further this thing goes, the closer we'll get and we'll talk about it more. But there's definitely, that Clemson stamp goes beyond we're connected through Clemson. It's just a network of so many people. So yeah, we definitely talk about it and brought it up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, all four of us, but I need to be brought up into those conversations. That's cool though. That's cool.
Maybe I can get T-Law to come on Gameball.
Yeah, see, networking, right? Isn't that the
worth a shot?
Word of the day? Yeah, come on. I would love that. I would love that, Naz. Bringing up Clemson now too. Basketball. We did this episode, or when we last did an interview together. It was before the season wrapped up. A lot of things happened towards the end. And I know it's a bad we'll talk about the good first. Just the ACC tournament in general. So you come to Clemson, I'm assuming at least come to Clemson ACC basketball because you want that ACC basketball feel. You want that competitive nature right there. And I know March Madness was the goal, but we have the ACC tournament, which is same thing. It's madness and it's go win or go home. So just being in those games, being a part of it, was that just an exciting thing to be a part of? Was that everything you kind of dreamt of in a way?
No, for sure. It's definitely the experience. Again, I'm as much as I'm huge on networking and relationships, I'm huge on experience. So one thing everybody obviously brings up with the NFL thing is money for me. And I'm like, hey, I can care less about the money. I want to be 80 one day sitting in a rocking chair and be like, I remember doing this. The ACC tournament is definitely one of the things that I'm glad and grateful that I got to experience. No matter what anybody says, ACC year in or year out is arguably the best basketball conference in college. So they told us we had a down year, and then you see what the ACC team did in the tournament. So it shows what our league really was. This year, and I had more of an urgency. It's my senior year. It's the last year. Whatever happens, but I understood what a conference tournament was because I came from a one-bid league. We went into the ACC tournament with the mindset of, hey, we're going to go win 4 games in a row. We're going to go win the whole thing. That's what, we had it worked out perfectly. Hunter's coming back. PJ's coming back. We're going to Brooklyn. We're winning it. And, we talked about it every day. It'll be a story to tell. It's something that's going to happen. Bittersweet, the last shot, whatever else it is. But, that entire game, you win versus NC State. We come the next day. We come to play. They're up at halftime. We just played them a couple weeks ago. But in that, whoever wins this game, we're going to go. We're going to go on. It was a game that I imagine being a fan. We're down. We rally back. We're back and forth, overtime, this, that, and the third. I'm like, yo, this is the feel was ridiculous. I'm on the bench feeling like, a kid in the candy store again. I'm in the game. I'm feeling it like, yo, it's not over. Like, we're going to win it. And genuinely believed it all the way until it just was over. And then couldn't believe he hit a shot.
That was, as a supporter, yeah, that was crazy. It was funny. I take business calc last semester.
Mm-hmm.
And those tests we had test slots from 7 to 9:30 at night. It was awful because it's, late at night.
Yeah.
And the day I had a test, Clemson, Virginia Tech was playing. And our teacher kept telling us, oh, the score, whatever. And I think at one point Clemson was down by like double digits. And he's like, oh, it's over. And I'm like, come on, you can't be saying that. You're a professor here. And then I finally got out the classroom and I was like, all right, I gotta check my phone. There was like 5 seconds left in the game, like a regular time. I don't remember what I think. It ended up going to overtime. I think like Virginia Tech missed a shot or something along those lines. And I was like, okay. So I was driving, listening to it on the radio, got home, and there was like 30 seconds left in OT. Ran up to my apartment, threw it on, and then I, obviously saw it happen, and it was crazy. But like that was a big game. That was an exciting game just to be a part of. And again, that's like obviously you wish it went, Clemson's way. That's what everyone, you missed that. Maybe you wish they missed that shot. But was that like, I know it was heartbreaking, but was that what you're, I guess, in a way looking forward to, being, like you said, have that.
Yeah, that was definitely like something that I chased and something that was provided by me coming to Clemson. There's no substitute for what, just Power 5 sports are. And then especially at a place like Clemson where everybody is involved and everybody is invested and it's a family feel, just even the simple things like the fact that we got a park around the corner at a hotel at a golf course on game days for football and then get picked up on golf courts by managers because it's that many people outside tailgating that we can't even park at our gym. Like, those are things that I can go back and tell my family and my friends, like, yo, college was ridiculous. Like, I remember I went to Clemson and, hey, we got on jets and we went to go play at Duke in Coach K's last year and had them beat all the way to the last second. And, just like, even the wins, everything else, like, just forget everything else, but just the complete experience of being able to play ACC basketball was definitely fun for me. It's something that, like, I won't forget. From the media day all the way until, that last shot in Brooklyn. But I definitely appreciate what ACC basketball had to offer.
Yeah, definitely. That media day was pretty cool. You got some good pictures there. But going back to something you mentioned with the ACC tournament, when Hunter came back, PJ back, you said you were bought in. And I know you're always bought in, and I'm not like discrediting the team.
Yeah.
They weren't bought in before. But was that like being able to kind of rally together with that moment? Was that like I don't want to say it wasn't like the tightest you've ever been before, but was that like really the moment everyone was like, you know what, like we can do this? You weren't down on yourself, so you were saying like,
So like
you can do it.
I don't mind being completely blunt with you. Like, it's we can be honestly about the whole thing. So yeah, throughout our season, it was a kind of like I don't want to say a give or take with our team, but some guys feel more appreciated than others. Other guys, growing pains. Obviously, it's everybody coming into a year and feeling like they have their own self-expectations for what they should be or who they could be to the team. And then roles are given out. It happens with every team. And you have to decide whether you're going to accept it and do what's better for the team or how long are you going to fight it. And for us, we had a hot and cold season because we went back and forth on how many guys are on this side of the fence, how many guys are on that side of the fence, back and forth. And not us versus us versus fighting the system versus whatever else it is. I can be completely honest and say, I came to Clemson with a different agenda for the way that my year would go. But when Coach Barnell told me, hey, here's what I need from you, I bought in just because that's what's supposed to happen for what our team does. By time we got to that ACC tournament, we figured it out. Like, hey, we all have one common goal. Here's how we get to it. So what if PJ scores 20 or he scores 2? So what if Hunter scores 20 or he scores 2? Same with Nick, Al, me, Dave, Chase, whoever else. At that point, we were all just bought into the simple fact of let's win it all and let's write history. Let's make something happen. So we definitely were on a hot streak. And for me, I was just like, damn, like had we figured it out earlier, we showed the glimpses throughout the whole season of what we could have been. And now we're not in a position to where we have to win a tournament to go to the NCAA tournament. We would have already been penciled in, and this would have just been icing on the cake if we won. So yeah, definitely. And I think, when it started was more so when Hunter went out, we had to rally. But when PJ went down at Louisville and we had to play, and then, he started that game, but the next game we were playing Wake Forest and they had, the hype behind them and, obviously Jake LaRavia and Alondes Williams, but winning that game at home gave everybody the energy of like, hey, no, we're actually like we can do this. And when they come back, like we'll be even that much more better.
So yeah, that's obviously a lot to take in right there. But reflecting on it now, I know you guys were reflecting on it then, saying we could have been in better position if we were all fully bought in, knowing the roles. But just looking back on it now, like, do you guys wish that you did it all a different way, or you just say, what, it happened the way it did, like that?
Yeah, I would say yes, and then I would say again, no, like the same thing I said earlier to you about, just me playing football in college. I believe things happen for a reason. One thing I always talked about we always talked about when I went to Youngstown State was, the heartbeat of a team. Each year, the lifespan of a team is those 9 or 10 months that we're together. Mm-hmm. Seniors graduate, new freshmen come in next year. So then there's a whole new team and there's a whole new aspect. One thing that has to always remain is the culture, which will be Clemson grit, passion and perseverance towards a long-term goal, which is something that Coach Brownell prides himself on. And that has to be something that everybody puts at the forefront above everything else. And, you build it with that. But I won't say because it happened. So it did happen. And I don't think it was guys just, on a selfish kick or whatever else it was. It was just what needed to happen kind of happened in the way that it did. And we never talk about this or have that conversation if, maybe Virginia Tech misses the shot. We go on, we win it in the fashion that they did. Now, everybody's a genius and you only talk about these type of things when you lose is my point. Every team in America goes through what we went through. It's normal. You have kids 18 to 23 that are trying to figure out their way and trying to figure out their own personal agendas as well as what the agenda is for the team. So with that on every basketball team at every school, you're going to have the turmoil that we had or the back and forth or the unsaid this and the unsaid that. Somebody's going to feel a type of way. But winning cures all.
Yeah. Well, you bring that up. It is a bunch of just, like you said, 18 to 23-year-olds that are, at the end of the day, we're all just young people, like trying to figure it all out. But is that something that people don't, I guess, take into account and realize, like, yeah, that's an 18-year-old or that's a 20-year-old trying to.
Yeah, I say it all the time, especially like at Clemson, they have the, you get on Twitter, the fans, they want to get rid of Brownell or whatever else it is. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, I would hate to be in a position where I make my livelihood off of 18 to 23-year-old men or individuals just because here's a group of, let's call it boys, who are trying to figure out how to become men, who are trying to figure out for the first time how to live on their own away from home, how to manage money, balance school, how to be an athlete, how to be a student, you know, all while everything is fast paced. They're asking so much of you and the responsibilities that you have. You never ever get to sit back and be like, damn, I am only 18. And some typical 18-year-olds may still be in their senior year of high school, living carefree. Or they may just be in school and they have to make their own schedule and they have their own, you know, like life and society puts so many other pressures onto you. So you have to deal with all of that while still trying to deal with not only yourself, but the nucleus of what a team is. So there's sometimes when you're a captain that I can be going through it. I can be like, bro, something at home isn't right. You know, damn, I'm broke this week. I might have failed that test. But I have to bite all of those bullets to make sure the other 14 guys around me are fine. Because if I'm an energy vampire, then they won't be their best selves. So then I say that as a captain, and then I'm always like, well, think about a coach. He not only has to deal with what he deals with in his household, what he deals with from the media, what he deals with from the school. He has to try to make every single player on that team feel like they're the best versions of themselves. And then after that, make every coach feel valued, and then every manager, and then every GA. And then, like, sometimes it's unrealistic. Mm-hmm. And nobody ever talks about that part of the sport or anything else about that. It's just, it's easy for somebody on the outside to be like, you know what, I could do that. I could do it. And it's that I'm just like, yeah, until you try it.
So when you offer that perspective and say that type of thing, you know, you're I guess from the player to the coach perspective, mm-hmm. You're one of the people that he has to take care of and make sure they're feeling the best version of themselves. But in a sense, like, could you, I guess from an outside perspective, you can already tell how hard that situation is for him. Mm-hmm. But like, could you imagine being in the same situation as whether it's Coach Burnell or just another head coach somewhere else, having to deal with this, all the noise and trying to rally together the team? Like, is that just a harder thing, easier said than done in a way?
Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done. But one thing that I think helps, and it helps on the team that are the most successful, my coach at Youngstown always used to say it, and Brownell hit on it too a little bit, is that if the coach has to coach, you know, things like outside of, has to coach effort or has to like hold everybody accountable, your team will never be that good. So like, I didn't understand when he kept saying, like, my coach at Youngstown used to always say, like, hey, like, I'm going to give you the keys to the car. You have to drive it. Like, obviously, I'm going to be in the seat. Everybody, I'm going to be taking the blame. When we win, I win. We lose, we lose. But it has to be a player-driven thing. Like, the teams with the best leaders and, like, when players hold each other accountable and there's a humility between one another and we can say things and give constructive criticism, or like, you take that much more pressure off the coach and he can focus on just coaching basketball. And he doesn't have to coach effort. He doesn't have to worry about attitude. He doesn't have to worry about everything else. So if I was a head coach, I would try to search for, you know, a captain or a leader who provides that locker room together and does that part of it. Because, you know, it's better to come from a peer. Me and you can have a better conversation than an authority figure, mm-hmm. because we can confide in one another at the end of the day. Whereas me talking to coach, sometimes there's some people who shy up and don't want to say what they actually mean, or they see coach for when he's irate and when he's getting at him, when he's really trying to get to him, but they don't really see the person in him because he can't come and hang out with us and come do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. So they may not be that comfortable, but that's why I think if I was a head coach, I would try to, one, get guys with my ability to try to make it a little bit easier, because like you do better with people you relate to. And then two, find a guy who understands being the guy. Like, does it mean you're the best player on the team? It doesn't mean you play all the time, but you accept who you are and you get the best out of everybody else and you run the show.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, great insight. Appreciate the insight, Coach Bohannon. Uh, but to end it on a good note right here, I was able to find this, I guess, this morning, believe it or not. But from one buzzer beater to another, you're at Lorraine and you were playing Bedford. Line. You hit the buzzer beater, the game winner, 63-62. The mask game. You got to call it that. I don't even know why you were wearing a mask. But talk to me about that game.
Got you. So let's start with the mask. We were playing my sophomore year, and that team that year was like a surreal year. Again, one of those experiences I'll never ever forget. Like, we ended up being 25-1. We were undefeated, first time in the city for a long time. But like, it was like almost movie like every game was sold out. The last game we lost, we sold out Akron as a high school team playing versus St. Ed's. You know, lines were wrapped around the building for tickets, like fans, people were picking us up, like paying for our tabs at restaurants, like, you know, just the whole nine. Things I can say because I'm not in college no more. It's no more amateurism. But like, so the game before that game, my teammate, who's actually my teammate now in the NFL, which is also something that, you know, is crazy. Like,
who's that?
Rashad Berry.
Okay.
He went to Ohio State and played football.
Mm-hmm.
He went up for a rebound, and I kind of like jumped with him. But when he came down, his elbow hit the bridge of my nose. So my nose ended up being broken, but I didn't know. You know, like, obviously it's bleeding, it's everything else. They just popped the little gauze in. I finished playing that game. But I went to the emergency room that night, whatever they looked at, it said it was broke. But I'm like, hey, I'm playing. So they give me the mask for next week's game. That was a day, I think I turned 16 the night before. Bedford was, at that point, it wasn't really a rivalry yet, but it was a game where we always played, like, they played us tight. And we had just played them in the summer at Kent State, and we won by 1 or 2. So it was a lot of anticipation for that game. Gym sold out. It was one of those, I missed playing in that gym. They knocked that school down, actually. But, you know, it was a older gym, so the stands were pretty much on the court, hot, everything. Fans can touch you, you know, dim lights, everything. Mm-hmm. But the game was back and forth the whole time. They went on like a 18-2 run in between like the third and fourth quarters. So we were down about 7 with like a minute and 30 left. And obviously it was real like raunchy, and like we almost got into it. It was almost a little altercation in between, which there's a video of that too. We storm back, we come back, we call a play where I actually was supposed to, I wasn't even supposed to get the ball. I was supposed to set a screen, get the ball. The inbounder was going to come off and fake like he was screening to the other block, and then post up right in the middle of the lane. I was going to pass to him. Fortunate enough, you know, when I flashed back, I ended up being open, and I kind of just made like a reactionary spin move and shot a left-hand hook off the glass. Tried to move the next couple of days in a row, couldn't make it for shit. So it's just like an in-the-moment feel, but like it was like a, you know, all emotion came out. Mm-hmm. Threw the mask in the air. They rushed the court like we were in college. You know, so it was a great feeling.
Yeah, no, it looks crazy. I saw the whole rush up the court. You got to protect that nose though. Like,
definitely.
Come on, that's the worst part. The celebrations where you're gonna get hurt. But man, that's crazy. No, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Especially you said your sophomore year. I mean, you must have been sky high. Sophomore, that's crazy.
That was a fun time.
Yeah, I bet. Well, now as always, man, I appreciate you coming on. Like, I had a good time talking with you, and you know, we wish you the best of luck at with Jacksonville and with training camp approaching.
All right, thank you.